After a long hiatus, we are back. Two Guys Talking Shit, episode 7. In this episode, Brett Favre stops by to teach us how to take a proper dick pic. Alright, so after our long hiatus here, we're back, and we're going to talk some NBA playoffs.
Because it's the only thing that actually fucking matters right now in sports.
Yeah, we're in interleague play in baseball, like anybody fucking cares. Do you give a shit about the Indians versus the Reds?
I mean,
does anyone?
I do a little bit. I mean, I'm a big Reds fan, so the rivalry through Ohio runs thick. If you're a baseball fan, you're a baseball fan in September and October.
They aren't rivals.
Yeah, but you still got that interleague, interstate matchup where it doesn't matter, but it matters.
If they were in the same city like the Mets and the Yankees, I can see it, but I don't see that shit for Cleveland versus Cincinnati.
They still play for a trophy. I mean, they get a trophy at the end of the year. I mean, for whoever wins the series or takes it.
Everybody gets a trophy in Little League anymore, Pete. What the fuck does that matter?
Pride of Ohio, Sam. Pride of Ohio.
Pride of Ohio. They're both Ohio teams, so either way, Ohio has pride.
Yeah, but you're not an Indians fan and a Reds fan.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, you could be. They're not rivals.
You're a shitty person if you're both fans of both teams.
Well, agreed, but you're a shitty person because you root for the Steelers. Or not the Steelers, but the fucking Patriots, so...
Well, I mean, I would be a shitty person if I rooted for the Steelers, too, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. You'd be an even shittier person. Well, I don't know. Those are about even anymore.
Like, do you hate the Steelers more than the Patriots?
I don't know. It's pretty 50-50. Luckily, other than you and kinda Dave, I don't really have to deal with many people that root for the Patriots. Most people I know just hate them because they've had to deal with them being good for so long. Even the shitty Steelers fans I know are like tolerable people because, yeah, we can hate on the Patriots together. So the Patriots are starting to outweigh them a little bit because as much as I love my Browns and as much as I like to think of, you know, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Ravens being rivals, they're really not until we can actually beat one of them.
It's true. I mean, the Browns have been so bad.
But I don't get, like, I get that the Browns and the Bengals have always been rivals because, you know, while it is the same state, there's also the Paul Brown factor, the whole Brown family. He left Cleveland to go to Cincinnati to build that team. So that's a rivalry. The Reds and Indians, there's nothing on the line.
Battle of Ohio, that's what's on the line.
If they played right at the end of the season and there were playoff implications, then yeah, I can see it, but there's not. We're a month and a half into the season. Who gives a shit?
Well, I mean, baseball doesn't give a shit. It's 162 games.
That's
and
true.
Every game matters, but, like...
Bullshit.
It doesn't really. I mean, you can say it matters because at the end of the season, you have to have usually about 90 wins to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and every game matters in the Eastern Conference in the NBA, too, when teams make it with sub-500 records. No.
Touche. No. I mean, the NBA is a joke.
The NBA is a joke. It's just so top-heavy anymore. And speaking of the NBA, we were supposed to be talking NBA playoffs. We got on a little bit of a tangent there. You know, everybody has looked at this as some shitty-ass playoffs. But I'm going to make a slight case here that it hasn't been. If you actually watched the early rounds of the teams that are no longer with us, there were some good series there. I mean, you had some series that ended 4-2, 4-3. So if you actually watch the whole playoffs and not just watch the Cavs games and the Golden State games, then, which are really the only ones that mattered, then it's been a pretty decent playoffs, but
no,
the problem is there's only 2 teams, maybe 3 if Kawhi Leonard hadn't gotten hurt.
See, that's the problem with these NBA playoffs is too many star players have been hurt throughout the playoffs.
Really? It's just been Kawhi?
I mean, Tony Parker goes down. That's a big loss for the Spurs. You got Kawhi going down. That's a big loss for the Spurs. You got Isaiah Thomas now in the East, just went down for the rest of the playoffs.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. How they won Game 3, I still have no idea.
Marcus Smart had the game of his life.
He did.
He'll never have a game that good again. It was just a freak occurrence. And when LeBron only scores 11 points, the Cavs probably aren't going to win a game.
I mean, you got to think a lot of these teams are only playing probably 6 or 7 deep throughout the playoffs, 8 deep. And so when a starter goes down, it's big. It hurts the depth. I mean, and you have to fill in voids.
But I mean, star power. It's not like, Steph Curry or Klay Thompson or somebody like that went down, and it's not Russ Westbrook didn't go down, James Harden didn't go down. Outside of those 2 injuries to the Spurs, none of those made a difference in these playoffs. These playoffs have been about 3 teams. And since Tony Parker and Kawhi went down, they've been about 2 teams.
And we all knew from the beginning of the season that these were the 2 teams that were going to make the finals.
Oh, yeah. I don't think anybody had a doubt. Again, as well as Kawhi Leonard was playing in the playoffs, I think this series could be a shitload different if he were still there.
You look at Game 1 and you just see the difference on and off the court. I mean, they were up by like 27 when he left, and then lost Game 1 because he leaves in the third quarter up by like 20-plus points.
I still think Golden State would win that series, but I think it'd be a shit ton better of a series.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna finish out the sweep now, and it's.
Do you think too much rest during series hurts? Like, say Golden State sweeps here tonight, and they have to sit for 7, 8, 9 games, just like the Cavs did for the last 3 series. Does it hurt you by sitting that many days before another team's done?
I don't know. There's a lot of schools of thought on there. I think with a veteran team, the rest can help. Especially if you look at, let's take the Spurs for example. If you would have had, let's say, last year's Spurs with Tim Duncan still around, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and you still have Kawhi Leonard, among a host of others. Don't get me wrong.
Danny Green.
They have the best possible, team, I would say, that actually plays as a team 100% of the time that the NBA has, especially when Tim Duncan was still there. But if you're looking at a team like that's veterans that have the playoff experience, that I don't think that rhythm is as big of an issue with teams like that. But when you talk about the younger teams, if you start looking at Golden State, who's a pretty young team, but they do have a wealth of playoff experience. But a younger team like that, I think, doesn't necessarily need the rest and could value more from staying in rhythm.
I always think that the long layoffs hurt. For some reason, my mind says you just want to play. You just want to play. The long time, I mean, practices, I know they practice in between games and whatnot, but it's not the same adrenaline. It's not the same up-tempo. You got to keep in rhythm, and that's what I'm saying. It's easier to go from Game 6 to Game 1 than just having that huge layoff, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see it either way. And who knows what's right or how the players feel. I mean, LeBron has come out and said that he prefers the rest, and that's
well. I mean, you look at the amount of minutes he plays throughout a season, throughout his career. He deserves the rest. He needs it. I mean, he may be still. I mean, I don't know. Is he considered old in the NBA? Is he young in the NBA? I don't really know anymore.
I wouldn't consider him old. I think by NBA standards now, I think
he's ancient. He's ancient amount of minutes he's played.
Oh yeah, in the amount of games, the amount of minutes, even the amount of playoff games he's played, he's fucking old as shit. I mean, the guy's been in the league for 12 years now. He likes the rest, and it seems to be working for them, minus this past game for him. But everybody has an off night. I mean, the best ever have off nights.
It just happens.
has.
I mean, you can't shoot 40+% every game and think that that's going to happen every game.
The guy played like a god for 7 games straight. He was due.
Yeah, I mean it's just
for 7 games straight. That's him playing like a god. That's not him playing like LeBron James. That's playing him above LeBron James.
I mean, I think he was shooting like 50% from the field, 40% from 3-point line, grabbing 10 boards a game. I mean, he was just a freak for a lot of straight games.
Yeah. So he was due to have a shitty one, and that's fine. I don't think it's gonna hurt him to drop one game against the Celtics.
And like you said, Marcus Smart had the game of his life. And if you watch the end of the game, there were a couple really lucky rolls that went in that favored Boston.
Oh, that Avery Bradley! It took 2 hops off the rim before it went in.
Marcus Smart's free throw that he clanked and it rolled around and clanked again and drops in. I mean, it's just like Jesus. Things fell in line for them.
Marcus Smart's not hitting 7 threes again.
Jarekbo hits a key jumper at the end of the game to go up 2. I know the Cavs drove down and tied it back up. But I mean,
I thought he was still in Detroit. Until he came into game 2, I was like, holy shit. I thought he was a Piston.
Yeah. Which, I mean, he's a good-ish scorer.
He's a good guy to go in and get some fouls for you. Let's be real honest. He subs in so that Kelly Olynyk doesn't foul out.
I mean, nobody thought he was going to get the shot. That's why he was open, and he just happened to make it.
Even the announcers, when he came into game 2, they were like, they're putting Jarekbo in?
And good for him. I mean, he made the tough shot. They went up by 2. J.R. Smith drives down. They get the layup to tie the game. And then, or it might have been Kyrie. I'm not sure which one. I think
he can hang his hat on that while he's bagging groceries next year.
Yeah, and then Avery Bradley comes down and hits a key jumper to win the game. I mean, things fell right for Boston. A lot of things. I mean, you could say that in the game, it all evens out. But, I mean, some serious stuff went down for Boston to win that game. And Marcus Smart played the game of his life, period.
I'll say this. LeBron will get that one back.
Yeah.
I expect him to score 45.
In the next game. Is the NBA boring because you know who's going to be in the finals? Right now, it's just like, we're going to have the 3rd straight NBA finals where it's the same 2 teams.
I think it makes the finals really exciting because there does start to develop that rivalry between the 2 teams. I'm obviously a Cavs fan, so I get excited by it. I'm also a Cavs fan, and I've started to hate some Golden State players. Like, I despise Draymond Green. He is a dirty motherfucker. Like, I hate him like I used to hate Rasheed Wallace.
I don't know why.
He's
why
just
did you hate
a dirty
Rasheed?
Piece of shit.
Because
he was a dirty piece of shit.
you couldn't guard him.
If he would have thought to be kicking people in the dick, he would have been doing it too.
you couldn't guard the high screen.
Draymond, you don't kick other guys in the dick.
LeBron, you don't step over other players and put your junk in their face.
He's kicked more than just LeBron.
I'm just saying. I don't want to get stepped over.
So am I. I'm saying don't kick a guy in the dick. I saw a whole South Park episode about it. Don't shoot him in the dick, Butters.
Oh, that's such a good episode, too. But that's for another time. But anyway, I mean, I can understand that. And Curry has gotten more cocky, arrogant. Just the way he goes about his business. Anytime you're launching threes and you're just walking to the other side, it's kind of that's arrogant.
See, I don't know if I can hate on him for it, though. Because I loved Jimmer Fredette so much when he did it in college, that I don't know if I can hate on Steph Curry for doing the exact same thing. Like, the guy... And you gotta give it to him. The skill's there to be able to just launch that shot. But I'm starting to see it out of Kyrie, too. Kyrie has that one shot on the top of the arc on the left side that he is just money from that side. If he gets the ball, he's going to shoot it there, and he's going to drain that three. He may be garbage from three-point land everywhere else, but he's going to drain it from that one spot. It's the same spot he hit it to win the NBA Finals last year. Like, that's just become his money ball.
Yeah, and the thing about Kyrie is he's such a good slasher, and once he's so magical in the air, 3 feet from the basket, he's the best layup artist in the league, I guess. I mean, I don't know how to say it.
Oh, yeah.
He's magical with the balls in his hand 3 feet away.
His layup in traffic, like the stuff he winds up getting to the rim, every time he drives, I'm like, you fucking midget, you're getting blocked. And then he somehow sweeps up under the basket and just, it's ridiculous.
Has some magic touch. And so when he gets on that left side, and you're like, oh, he's going to drive, and then he just, three-pointer, here gets good. So what are you going to do?
My big thing watching the Cavs that has just been making me incredibly angry, outside of Kevin Love's complete inability to play any sort of defense, which has always been my complaint about him.
If you don't say coaching, I'm going to kill you, because this is the number one thing that bothers me.
Oh, well, LeBron's the coach. Let's move past that. Like, that's been knowledge since David Blatt was fired. But my problem is, and I get that they play a lot of isolation. I get that they isolate LeBron a lot. But that doesn't mean you stand still.
Yeah.
I hate seeing LeBron with the ball and everybody just standing around away from him. I hate that. It pisses me off. Move.
Cut.
Get open.
Cut to the basket.
Cut to the basket. Do something. Like, get moving. And you don't have to move closer to them. I get it's isolation. Move away from him. Move in the, make cuts to the basket. Make cuts back out to the 3 line. Figure something out. Just move.
It's very stagnant offense. And that's why it's kind of hard to watch sometimes when the Cavs play. And that's why when they struggle hard. It's because there's just no ball movement. There's nothing going on. And I know you're not going to defend LeBron for a whole game, 48 minutes or 43 or however he plays, but you gotta have some sort of offense.
Well, I get, when Kelly Olynyk switches off onto LeBron, isolate the fuck out of that, because he's either going to blow by him or shoot over him.
Or he's going to get fouled and go to the line.
Yeah. So I get that, but isolation doesn't mean you can't move.
Yeah.
And I hate seeing that. Now, that being said, the defense that the Cavs have been playing in the playoffs, just fucking incredible. I am so amazed by their ability to just turn it on. The defense in Game 2, I stopped watching at halftime. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I stopped watching my own team playing the Celtics at halftime because there was no point in watching the rest of that game.
It was like 76 to 30 or something stupid. It was why watch that?
It was incredible to watch because, yes, the Cavs were shooting the lights out, don't get me wrong, but their level of defense was incredible.
Yeah, they shut Isaiah down. I mean, they just made him look like an idiot.
It seemed like every pass that any Celtic made was going into the hands of a Cavalier.
Yeah. But their coaching is what bothers me. I just why have a coach? Why is he there? Why is Tyrone there?
I find it hilarious because the way I can tell he doesn't actually coach the team is he always looks surprised. Like, he just always looks in shock. Like, players sub in, and he's just got this dumbfounded look on his face. And I don't know, maybe that's just the way he looks, and I shouldn't make fun of him for it, but he looks just surprised at all times.
I just don't think he knows what's going on. And
I mean, that's quite valid.
Yeah, it's like, what happened to the player coaches? Why did that go away?
Because Pete Rose gambled on baseball.
Oh, okay. Is that when it ended? I mean,
I don't know. That's the last one I could think of.
I mean, you can still have a coach. Like, Popovich he's doing his job. He's an intense guy. But
I mean, you can make that argument for Golden State. I mean, Mike Brown is a garbage coach, and he's been coaching them through these playoffs. Coaching, quote unquote. So what did Steve Kerr actually do? I mean, you can make an argument nothing. Because God knows Mike Brown isn't, because I watched him up close twice, 2 different tenures with the Cavs, and he was garbage both times. At one point, Eric Snow coached for him, and then the other point, he got fired in a year.
It's true. I mean, are coaches obsolete in the NBA? Do you need a coach in the NBA?
As I've always said, and I maintain this even about Phil Jackson, it's more about being a manager of egos in the NBA than it is actually coaching. And you don't have to manage egos on the Cavs. You don't. LeBron does that for you. Because LeBron's the only ego that matters. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, he is that.
What did you think about the Celtics getting the first overall pick?
I'm surprised you're not bitching about that, but you're probably the only reason you're not bitching about that, and I want to point this out, is because they'll have to go up against the Cavs. And you fucking hate for my teams to be good and me to be happy. So
What are they gonna? Are they gonna draft Ball?
I don't know. They're not going to draft Ball. Everybody says that the Fultz kid is the consensus number 1 overall. Now, there's talk of them actually trading Isaiah and taking Fultz. Trading Isaiah, getting some pieces, who knows what they'd trade him for. A lot of people don't think that he's worth a max contract. I think in the NBA, you can make an argument that anybody's worth a max contract. I mean, shit, some of the people that get big contracts in the NBA are fucking garbage. Delonte West was making like $7 million a year at one point. So, I mean, with the NBA's pay scale, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know. It's hard to tell what they'll do. I think they'll take Fultz, or whether Fultz will go number 1, whether they take him and trade Isaiah, whether they take him and keep Isaiah, or whether they trade the pick. Who knows?
I've heard Paul George wants to go to LA. Do you think the Paul George for the number 2 pick goes down?
I don't know. You don't see like high profile players for picks in the NBA like you do, at least not for like a singular pick the year of the draft.
But Paul George is a free agent anyway.
Paul George will be a free agent after this year.
You might as well try to get something out of him. If you don't think he's going to sign.
I agree, but a lot of times you see more player-for-player trades, and then draft picks are kind of a toss-in than you do draft pick or just one draft pick for one player, because we're not in a draft. While I think this is a good draft, we're not in a draft where, like the
LeBron, Wade, Bosh,
Darko Milicic.
Yeah, Darko. Don't get me started again. I really don't want to go on that tangent.
But I don't know. I think Paul George will wind up being moved. Maybe, that's the Isaiah trade. Maybe they trade Isaiah to the Pacers for Paul George and then take Fultz. Supposedly this Fultz guy is the next coming of Chris Paul. So I don't... As good as I think Isaiah is, he's not Chris Paul.
And Paul George as a wing player in Boston is something that would be killer, because that is what they need.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what they're lacking. They have good guard play. They
got Crowder.
They don't have spectacular big men, but they have a host of big men that can all contribute.
Al Horford's good. I like Al Horford.
Al Horford's good. Kelly Olynyk's good enough. Amir Johnson's good enough. And Tyler Zeller and Jarek Bowe are both good subs.
But I think it's going to be interesting with the drafts, seeing what goes down, because there could be some major blockbuster trades along with this line.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't happen often, but I mean...
First time for everything.
Yeah. And... I mean, Paul George wants out, so...
How much are the Nets kicking themselves for that trade, though? Having traded for Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and I can't remember who the third name was, and traded away, like, all their draft picks, and this is one of them. Now it's the first overall pick, and the number 1 seed in the East gets the first overall pick.
And they're garbage. Again.
Yeah. Yeah, the Nets are fucking awful.
It has to hurt. it has to hurt pretty bad. If you're management, you're... Did you see the tweet Paul Pierce went out?
No.
Paul Pierce sent a tweet out. So now I retire, and this is what I leave Boston, the #1 draft pick, as a parting gift.
Hey, I mean, technically, he was part of it, yeah. I mean, but don't get me wrong, when that trade happened, I think we all looked at the Nets and were like, holy shit, they're going to be fucking awesome.
And then we figured out how old everybody was.
Yeah, then we remembered KG was like 37 at the time, Paul Pierce was like 36 at the time. It's like, oh, well, all right.
Yeah. We always like to remember people in their prime, and not when they're old and senile.
Well, I mean, those were the people that, our high school years, they were who we were watching.
Yeah.
And then...
I mean, I would have probably made the trade too. I'm like, I get Paul Pierce and fucking Kevin Garnett. Hell yeah, let's do it.
They just won titles with the Celtics. Oh, wait, that was 6 fucking years ago.
You don't remember that shit.
The LeBron versus Jordan comparison, yet again. I've always contended that they're not that comparable because their style of play is so different. Or, in comparison is so different. I don't know if that's present tense or past tense. Fuck. I think LeBron is much more comparable to Magic Johnson than he ever would be to Jordan as a player. But regardless, Jordan's widely considered the greatest of all time, and everybody's going to get compared to him. So there it is. So I'm going to read you off something, Pete. And I'm just going to read it as raw numbers, player A versus player B, and you tell me which one you think. This is, all right, player A and player B are obviously LeBron
and Jordan.
And Michael Jordan.
Got it.
And this is both of them at exactly 32 years old. Player A, 49.8% field goal percentage, 51.6% field goal percentage for player B. 3-point percentage for player A, 34.1% to 30.1%. Points per game, 27.1 to 32.3. Rebounds, 7.2 to 6.3. Assists, 6.9 to 5.9. Steals, 1.7 to 2.7.
Player B sounds better than player A.
But would you say it's by a large margin?
No, of course, no, not very much at all.
All right. So now, I'll give you two more numbers. Playoff minutes, 42 to 35.
I would say, that's a big stat.
I think it is too. I mean, granted, and I tried to take averages when I'm looking at them instead of raw numbers, because I think if you look at raw numbers, player A is obviously LeBron, player B is Michael Jordan. LeBron is, by the age of 32, had played, I think, 3 more seasons than Jordan. So when you look at raw numbers, they're not really that comparable.
Yeah.
But I think the argument is getting a lot less. And here's the question I want to ask you. If you had to build a team with one, who would you take? And take away all your bias. I know you hate LeBron and you hate Jordan.
I would
take away
LeBron.
all bias.
I would take LeBron in a second.
See, I agree. Now, if you needed one game or one shot,
I'd take Michael Jordan.
I agree.
I would actually take Robert Horry if I needed one shot.
Big Shot Bob was a bum. He was a bum of an NFL or NBA player. He sat in the fucking corner and made 2 threes a game.
But they were the most important shots of those games.
Yeah.
If there was a guy that was clutch, it was Chauncey Billups and Robert Horry. I would take those two guys to take any game-winning shot I had.
Chauncey Billups? Really?
Mr. Big Shot.
Mr. Big Shot. How many titles does
One.
he have?
That's all that matters.
One.
And he has one Finals MVP.
He was the Finals MVP?
Yep.
Guess that makes sense. He did know how to. Him and Rasheed Wallace on that high screen. It was a motherfucker.
Beat a great Laker team.
I have to admit, as a team, that's one of the best teams I've seen. Like, that actually played as a team. You had Chauncey and Rasheed running the high screen and roll. Then you had Rip Hamilton's quick little ass running all over the court like the fucking Energizer Bunny. Tayshaun Prince was standing somewhere with his lanky ass.
Tayshaun Prince was
waiting to play defense.
Play defense, yeah. I mean, that's all he was meant to do. And he played.
And then Ben Wallace was standing under the bucket because I think that was before defensive 3 seconds.
He blocked 9 shots a game and rebounded the ball somehow at 6'6".
Yeah, the day I found out he was only 6'6", like, it wasn't until he went to the Cavs and he stood next to LeBron and I was like, the fuck?
But anyway, I would take Michael Jordan to take any last shot over the two. I think they both want to win. I think part of it is they just bring different styles to the table. And I mean, they're both fierce competitors. Nobody will argue against that. LeBron wanted to win, Michael Jordan wanted to win at an all-time high. I mean, above and below, that's why they want to win. But they bring different levels of intensity to the game. Michael Jordan was, I want to score, and I'm clutch. And when the ball is in my hand, I know I'm going to score. And he brought like a fierceness that he just made people intimidated by just his presence. And that's why he was so good. Because he knew he was better, and the person guarding him knew, hey, he's going to make this shot over me. And LeBron brings the factor of, I'm stronger than you, I'm faster than you, and I can get to the hole and pass out to one of my players who I trust.
See, now, the thing when I looked at these statistics, the thing I found startling, because I've always been under the impression that Jordan was the just vastly better shooter. And, overall field goal percentage, he's got him by just over 1 percentage point. But 3-point percentage, LeBron's got him by 4 points.
And people will always say, people will always say, well, Jordan went and played basketball. What if he didn't go play or baseball? What if he didn't go play baseball? And they would have probably won in 94 and 95. But, and the thing that LeBron gets knocked off is because he loses in the finals. Where Jordan didn't always get to the finals, but when he did, he won. But there were a lot of times where he didn't make the finals to begin his career.
Yeah, his first several years, the first 4 or 5 years of his career.
He couldn't get past Detroit, and he couldn't get past other teams in the playoffs. And that was always his biggest fear. And then once he got over that, he took the game over.
Oh, yeah. And, I've always made the contention that I think the NBA was much more rounded in the 90s, and, we've discussed whether or not that's just my NBA Jam bias, growing up playing that as a kid. And maybe it is, but I'll say this. I don't know that Jordan, at least, I look back at the teams he played, and I have a tough time coming up with a team as good as Golden State that he ever beat. Jazz played in a 7-game series.
With the 97-98 Jazz, would they make it to the finals right now in the West?
No. I don't know that Jordan ever went up against a team like the Spurs.
No. Were the Sonics that good? Would the Sonics win the West right now?
God, no. The Sonics were a 2-player team. And, and that's how most of the NBA was then, was you had a lot of 2-player
Would
teams.
The Suns with Charles Barkley, would they win the West right now?
You mean the Suns with Dan Marley?
Dan Marley. And Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, all of those were very good teams, but I can't put them on the same level as the Golden State team we're seeing now, or even the Golden State team we saw last year. You take Kevin Durant off the team, I don't know that that Jordan ever played and beat a team in a 7-game series like them. You can make an argument for Detroit very early on in his career that those teams were kind of on that level because they had a good overall team. But outside of that, I don't know that he ever had to go up against that sort of competition. Now, I still think the NBA was better rounded, that he went up against a lot more good competition where you see LeBron and the Cavs coast against the East to get to the finals to play those teams, or LeBron and the Heat coast to the finals to get to, the Spurs and play those teams. I think the NBA was deeper, but I don't think he ever went up against a team as good as the Golden State team we're looking at right now. Maybe I'm not ready to call him the best player of all time. Maybe I'm not at that point. I am ready to call him... He's a better basketball player than Michael Jordan was. Jordan's still, in my mind, the greatest player of all time.
Because you're biased.
Because I am biased, and because he's still got the championships to argue with. I think that's really the only thing he's got to argue with at this point. But I think LeBron's the best basketball player that I've ever seen. And how I can differentiate between the greatest player of all time versus the best basketball player I've ever seen, I don't know. And maybe that's hypocritical, and maybe that's talking out of both sides of my ass, but that's how I feel.
It's
Colin Kaepernick. There's been so much talk about Colin Kaepernick. In your opinion, is the fact that he still remains unsigned more about his protests or more about just the fact that he's not that good?
No, I think he'll get picked up before the start of the season. Before training camps, he'll be picked up. Seattle's been in talks with him. As a backup quarterback. I don't think he'll ever start again, but I think he'll get picked up to be a backup. And I think he could be a valuable backup.
I do too. And I think he's a serviceable enough guy.
Cleveland should pick him up.
Cleveland should not pick him up. And I don't think teams like if you were a step away, if I'm looking at somebody like Houston or maybe Denver, that you thought you could bring him in and he could manage a game enough that you could compete, then yeah. But Cleveland's not a step away. You look at another team like the Jets. The Jets need a quarterback bad, but they're not going to win with Kaepernick, so why pick him up? The same with the Browns. The Browns aren't going to win with Kaepernick, so why not let the young guys have a go and see where it takes it?
Because Cody Kessler's the answer?
No, but Deshaun Kaiser might be. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'd take, me personally, I'd take Brock Osweiler and his big arm over Kaepernick as a quarterback in the first place. So,
do you think Blake Bortles is manageable, or is he just hot garbage?
I'm going to give it another year before I make my determination. Watching him 2 years ago, he was lighting the world on fire. Granted, he was still throwing a lot of interceptions.
Is that just the style that he's just not afraid, and so he just puts balls where they shouldn't be? Or is that just carelessness?
Worked for Brett Favre.
Yeah, I mean, it did, and it worked better for Brett Favre than it has for Blake Bortles, though.
You were talking about year 2 and 3 of his career. Brett Favre wasn't lighting the world on fire in year 2 and 3.
You're right.
Let's give the guy a break. That's why I'm willing to set aside my judgment for one more year.
Is that the problem with society is we give up too easy? Like, after the third year, if you suck, we're like, oh, we need to fucking abandon ship. Where back in the day, you gave quarterbacks 6-7 years to develop.
I mean, we could get into the problem with instant gratification with society as a whole. But that's a much deeper conversation that I think we're looking to have.
No, but you know what I'm going at, though, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I can agree. I mean,
we're all in the what can you do for me now?
Yeah. And as a Browns fan, the fact is we've seen too many teams be able to turn it around with one guy. You know, be able to turn it on that quick. I mean, look at Matt Ryan. The Atlanta went from nothing to something when Matt Ryan came there. And don't get me wrong, he's had his struggles since, but he at least, came out really good.
I believe he did. He had a sophomore slump, but I mean, overall for his career, he's been in.
Look at New Orleans. When Drew Brees went there, they went from nothing to Super Bowl contending.
Yeah.
I mean that team hadn't had a good quarterback on it since fucking Archie Manning to that point.
They had Mark Brunell.
So, yeah, that team hadn't had a good quarterback since Archie Manning to that point. You're really gonna throw Mark Brunell?
The only guy I could think of at the time.
But yeah, I think there is a lot of that problem. I'm definitely like that when it comes to the Browns because I've seen so many shitty quarterbacks, and I think rightfully so because I have watched quarterbacks come into this league and be good from not necessarily from day one, but at least shown something early on.
But I think that's a big problem. Is we're just not letting talent develop in the right system long enough.
I think that problem stems from college because they're no longer playing the pro game in college, and they're not preparing quarterbacks. So you see all of these guys. I mean, name the last really good quarterback to come out. I mean, yeah, you can talk about Andrew Luck. Is Jameis Winston going to be the next? Is he going to be Tom Brady level? I don't think so. Is he going to be a decent quarterback in the league for years to come? Yeah, all right. That Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers level of quarterback, I can buy that.
See, I don't know why, but I'm on the Jameis Winston bandwagon, and I when he came out of college, I thought he was trash. I thought he was no good. I didn't like him or anything. But I don't know if it's living in Tampa and just hearing the hype over and over and over for the last 6 months, or what.
I think it is because I'm not on his bandwagon at all.
But I think
he's okay.
I think he's going to be a good quarterback, and above average quarterback. I think he'll be a top 10 quarterback within the next 3 years.
Well, that's not going to be that hard to do because you're going to start seeing people retire. Like, Phillip Rivers is going to retire. Drew Brees is going to retire. Tom Brady's going to retire. Like, his competition's not going to be that stiff in 3 or 4 years.
You still have Aaron Rodgers. Still have Andrew Luck.
Yeah. But if Andrew Luck's still alive, poor guy can't get any protection.
But, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Blake Bortles anymore, and I'm more of a fan of Jameis Winston.
See, I'm willing to give Bortles another season because the guy, that his second year, he really showed something with that wide receiver core. So I think you give him one more year to see, and it looks like the Jags are going to do that, to see what he can put up. Because you got to keep in mind that he's never had that good a running game while he's been there. And you got to have at least the ability to take some pressure off of him running the ball.
I was going to say something stupid.
Don't.
You
were going to bring up who's Tom Brady's running back.
I was going to say something stupid. Decided to go against it. You're welcome. Just to be an asshole. Blake Bortles... I'm going to do it anyway. Blake Bortles has Denard Robinson. Come on!
He doesn't anymore. Denard Robinson got cut.
Oh.
Sorry, shoelace.
He didn't run for 1,000 yards this year?
No.
Damn it.
He was going to be Josh Cribbs at best when he came.
Oh, I know. He was hot garbage. He shouldn't have made the NFL. I don't know why he got a job.
Well, that's it for episode 7. You know the drill. Like, comment, share, and submit any questions or topics you'd like us to cover. Join us next time for our finals preview show, where we'll also be taking time out of our busy schedules to teach Antonio Cromartie how to use a fucking condom.